The future is not distant. It is here, and the choices we make here will determine the fate of generations to come.
I believe there is no country in the world, in today's world, that can stand alone. I believe countries around the world, we are 195 recognized countries around the world. Recognized, I mean, there are other countries, but they're not recognized. So 195 countries are recognized around the world. And all these countries are independent. All these countries have decisions to do on their own, what passport to give out, what visa to give out, who should be the representative, what politics, what policies should they amend respectively in their own countries. I like the conversation, I like the speech of Ghana's president, Nana Akufo, in the recent UN General Assembly. And it touched me, and I was like, why can't I share it with you guys on the Outpost? Then we start from there. Listen to this conversation, listen to his powerful speech that changed the way we see the world.
Our theme, multilateral solutions for a better tomorrow, reminds us that no nation, however powerful, can resolve today's challenges alone. The climate crisis, inequality, pandemics, terrorism, and violent extremism, these are not local problems. They are global and demand global solutions. We live in an era of division. Too often, we allow lines of wealth, geography, or ideology to define our responses to global challenges. In doing so, we forget that standing apart leads to failure, while standing together ensures progress. The pandemic showed us how interconnected we are. It revealed that no nation can shield itself from a world in disarray. Yet, in its aftermath, we have seen irrational isolationism and blind nationalism resurge. This, my friends, is a path that leads to failure. We must return to the founding principles of the United Nations: cooperation, solidarity, and shared commitment to peace, which underline the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, whose fulfillment presents humanity with its most progressive charter. At the heart of today's crisis is the climate emergency, which threatens humanity's very existence. Africa, whilst contributing the least to global emissions, bears the heaviest burden. From floods to desertification, we're already experiencing its devastating effects. Despite the promises, the vulnerable remain abandoned. We're told to adapt and be resilient. But how does one adapt to famine or build resilience when farmers cannot predict the seasons? Africa cannot continue to pay for a crisis she did not create. We demand fairness, not charity. Climate justice requires an economic system that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. Mr. President, the vast gulf between rich and poor should be a stain on our collective conscience. Over 700 million people, that is 8.57% of the world's population, still live in extreme poverty, deprived of basic human rights: education, food, healthcare, housing, and the dignity of work. The pandemic exacerbated this equality, pushing millions more into poverty, whilst the wealth of the richest soared. This is unsustainable, and it is immoral. We must build a new global economic order, one that promotes inclusivity and equity for all. The multilateral system, especially the United Nations, should be at the forefront of this effort. This leads me to a critical issue: the reform of the United Nations Security Council, the body charged with the maintenance of international peace and security. In its current form, the Council does not reflect the realities of today's world. It remains an outdated post-Second World War relic, with Africa, a continent of 1.4 billion people, grossly underrepresented. We cannot speak of multilateralism when the structures of global governance are rooted in an unjust and unequal order. Mr. President, the time for half measures is over. Bold reforms are needed to ensure that every nation, large or small, rich or poor, has an equal voice at the table. Only then can we achieve a fair and inclusive system of governance. History will judge us, not by our words, but by our actions. The world is watching. The future is watching. We cannot be the generation that stood by as the world burned, whilst inequality widened and promises of justice went unfulfilled. That is why Ghana supports fully the global pact of the future and its supporting documents. I thank you for your attention.
What do you think? That's the first question I ask you. What do you think? Do you believe that as of right now, the African continent, the whole world in general, needs to sit on the same seat with what President of Ghana has pointed out? I believe every country has its own sovereignty. I believe every country has to take its own decisions. I believe countries have to forge bilateral relationships among each other because they help in trade, migration of people back and forth. They help when it comes to infrastructure developments, policy making. Only if these countries have the higher hand in making their own independent decisions. But in today's world, look at Africa. African countries, we are so much undermined by Western countries, by Asian countries. I mean, from Australia to China to Russia and beyond, because they do believe we cannot speak out for actually what we want and what we need and what's better for the future of our children, our grandchildren. Whenever I watch these speeches of African presidents in the UN talking about bringing unity among countries around the world, talking about bilateral relationships, talking about policies that really we need to put attention. We need to put all our attention to. I feel sad. I feel angry because many people filled up the seats. Many people are listening. Many people have interpretations that are translating everything being said, but actually, 50% is being done, if not 40%. But speeches like this can influence what happens tomorrow. Speeches like this can be a beacon of change of what we step in tomorrow in Africa and the globe at large. This is the Outpost. We talk about geopolitics and how it affects travel, geopolitics, how it affects immigration, and our offshore lifestyle. Don't forget to subscribe on our channel, because when you subscribe, you influence us more to make more videos about this. Influence us more to go out there and collect stories that really matter, stories that can change the way we see the world. This is The Outpost. It's a new YouTube channel, and I believe you and all of us together can make this the #1 YouTube channel for offshore lifestyle, for geopolitics, for immigration and travel. I'm Maxime from The Outpost. See you again in another video. Bye-bye.